And welcome back to Atreyu News. Now, I just returned from watching a movie called The Promise, which takes place in Turkey roughly about 100 years ago, about the genocide of approximately 1.5 to 2 million Christians. Now, I found this interesting and important, mainly on the fact that it was the birth, I should say the rebirth of the Ottoman Empire in Turkey. And what happened was, originally the country had been Christian before it had been taken over and conquered by Muslims. Now, once the Muslims reached a critical mass, they genocided almost all of the Christians that lived there. And the reason why I bring this up is because there's no Muslim nation on earth where there's a large Christian population left to their own devices. They're either kicked out of the country, converted, or killed. And now we look at Europe. Why hasn't this happened in Europe? Mainly because the critical mass, the population hasn't reached a certain size. But I kid you not, once it does reach a critical mass, we could possibly experience the same type of thing. And the rebirth of the new Ottoman Empire is led by modern leader of Turkey, Erdogan, who's threatening Europe with unlimited amounts of Muslim immigrants to bring Europe to its knees. This is the rebirth of the Ottoman Empire, so we cannot forget the past. So for if we understand the past, we can predict the future. Now I have a couple clips here that we're going to take a look at, so here we go.
It's very dangerous for Armenians right now. I want to get you out of here.
If it's not safe for me, then it's not safe for any of my people.
Now those guys with the red hats, another important point, are called the Young Turks, which is a prominent leftist YouTube channel called the Young Turks. They named their channel after the Turkish Empire, who literally genocided 1.5 to 2 million Christians. They named their channel after it. It'll give you an idea of where the Young Turks are coming from.
What is the Associated Press doing here?
Reporting on the war.
There is no war here.
So he openly admits to a reporter that there is no war taking place, as if he was a genocide denier. This is what happened. It was so shocking to see Hollywood to come out with a film that was so accurate to what happened in the past.
No one here is safe.
So I probably can't play too much of that. Perhaps I played too much already. But I found this fascinating. So anyways, fast forward to this year, where we have the Young Turks, who, like I said, named their organization over the people who genocided all those Christians. Let's listen to what they have to say about it, or what they don't have to say about it.
Love the student council. You know who I beef with all the time?
Who?
First of all, of course. But the people I didn't start the fight with, but the fight was brought to me, was the army.
Wow, amazing you would even bring that up.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
yeah.
So that part was a little questionable, and then things didn't go well. But I did, look, one time I went to the head of the Armenian student union, and I said, and I saw him at a restaurant, and I was like, hey, you know, we know each other from the thing, and,
Yeah.
and I was like, listen, we should get together and we should talk this through, because there's got to be a reasonable compromise, etc. And he's like, I have no interest in talking to you. I was like, oh.
Well, I mean, look,
Okay.
at that time,
I'm not sure I had written the article yet.
You hadn't written the
I
article.
don't think
yet.
so.
Okay. Because if you had written the article, I'd be like, fuck you, dude.
Right.
Like,
but like, if I came up to you,
Yeah.
you should definitely tell me to fuck off, because you would be thinking like, oh, you're going to be the head of the Turks. You're going to write that article, and then you're going to come and try to hit on me? Oh, no. Right? But that dude, I wasn't hitting on him.
No, I know. It's
You know
funny
what I'm
because,
saying?
I wouldn't have even thought that. But okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
But
Because look, for those of you who aren't aware, like, so I wrote an article. I don't want to get too into it, but I wrote an article about Armenian genocide at the time. And at the time, like, I've been told by like everybody I grew up with was Turkish. Like, there's all this issue and that issue and that issue. And I wrote an op-ed about it, and the Armenians were mad, which is very understandable, right?
Yeah.
So we
Well, notice throughout this entire video, they do as they can to hum and ha over the actual factual words. You notice every time it comes to admitting what had happened or getting into it, it's like, right? Deniers, through and through. And keep in mind that the Young Turks represent the progressives of the United States in current day. And who were the Young Turks? The Muslims who genocided Christians. So now it's starting to make more sense. The leftist narrative is being controlled by Muslim ideology.
had that issue too, but that was like almost, I think, if my recollection is right, that was after all the drums anyway.
Wow.
Okay, so
So,
you want to move on?
no, I don't want to move on. I hate like tiptoeing around this issue, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but the one thing I will say, because I think it's symbolic what you said about the Armenian guy who didn't want to talk to you. I think it's symbolic because if you do want to see some sort of compromise at some point and some sort of change within, the Armenian-Turkish relations, you have to be willing to talk about it, and you have to like get rid of this irrational hate of an entire community based on what the government did literally 100 years ago. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the biggest issue I have with the Armenian community right now. It's just, I hate that I get hated on because I work with the Turk, right? And that's not the right way to go about things, right? No. If you're angry with the Turkish government, that is completely understandable and that's justified. But hating on random Turks that had nothing to do with what happened 100 years ago is ridiculous.
Okay, one last thing on this. Look, you also got to understand how much grief I get from the Turkish side. So when I say, hey, cool it on those issues, they're like, no, you don't understand, and I'm like, dude, like, okay, I get why the Armenians are incredibly angry about this, given what happened, right? And I get that the Turks feel like they think that they're being lied about and they're, et cetera, and that rubs them the wrong way. But at least it didn't happen to you. You shouldn't be as angry. Do you see what I'm saying to the Turks?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, can I just say something about that very quickly? I mean, you weren't part of that. You know what I mean? And people are smarter than that. Like Armenians, I hope, are smarter than that. They're not going to look at Turks of today and say, like, you carried out the genocide. You know what I mean?
So as you can see, they've basically been talking for 3.5 minutes about the topic without actually talking about the topic. And then here comes Anna Kasparian, who is actually saying that it happened 100 years ago. You can't hold anybody responsible for it today or have any bad feelings about anything. Yet she'll turn around and say white people owe reparations to black people and stuff like that. It's a total hypocrisy, upside down world where their ideology can do as it wishes. Ours cannot. That's the difference.
I think that it's okay as a country to look back at what you did wrong in the past and say, you know what, we've grown tremendously since then and we want to have better relations with our neighbors. But I don't understand why people are against that. Like why they don't want to accept, things that happened 100 years ago. You know what, I don't know. Anyway, we're getting into specifics and it's going to get us into trouble, so let's move on.
Look,
it's just stupid. Let's move on, please. Let's come to an agreement. Let's be smart adults about it. But this random hatred for people who had nothing to do with something that happened 100 years ago is the part that annoys me the most.
Well, I agree. And I think for once maybe she knows how we feel about it. So, if we must forget the genocide of the Christian era in the Middle East and in Turkey, then why don't they forget about slavery as well? Two sides of the same coin. But I felt this was important because we have witnessed the rebirth of the new Ottoman Empire, led by Turkey or the new Young Turks. God bless us all.